Jazz, you stole his pillow. It's the thought that counts.
When this episode of Fresh Prince aired, watching TV was a very different experience, and absolutely no one watching their TV had any idea that what they were going to see would look nothing like what they had spent 3 seasons, 3 years watching. What they also didn't know is that one scene was going to completely change the show and potentially even be a part of the reason the show was almost canceled 3 times. All because a single person was fired.
What is that?
What you're looking at here is Janet Hubert. She plays Aunt Viv. What you're looking at here is Daphne Maxwell Reid. She plays Aunt Viv. This is the same show. And in this single scene, Jazz is going to say,
Since you had that baby, there's something different about you.
and the camera is going to pan to Will as he breaks the fourth wall, acknowledging that something has changed. So why was Aunt Viv fired? Why is this happening? I've talked about this before, but I really wanted to focus on how the show changed because of this time around. But first, context. Will Smith had 0 acting experience when he was cast as a lead role in a primetime network sitcom. None. And it showed. He was not great when the show began. And depending on who you ask, that's an understatement. In fact, if you pay close enough attention, there are times in the first season where you can catch him seemingly murmuring other actors' lines.
That's what I personally think.
Like, who cared?
Again, he was literally almost fired in the first season, but he learned. He got better. A lot better. Just not fast enough for Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv. By season 2, the wheels started to fall off. Hubert reportedly did not like that she had spent her entire life committed to this craft, and that Will, in her eyes, was not taking this seriously enough. That he was gifted this opportunity, that he was not committed. She would eventually confront Will about what she viewed as childish behavior and would claim that the way that both him and Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton, treated their job made the show hard to watch and made it hard for her to do her job. At one point going as far as calling Ribeiro Will's bottom wiper. Will, at one point, would say that he thought she wanted it to be the Aunt Viv show. Now, this was all really important to the show itself. Up until season 4, I view Aunt Viv in a lot of ways as the structural center of the show. She was Will's biggest advocate. She was also constantly written as this singular voice of reason. She grounded the show at every turn. More importantly, she was a truly great character played by a great actress. So much so that she was the very center of some of the show's most iconic episodes. Again, episodes I've touched on before, her revisiting her dance career, or this episode where she becomes Will and Carlton's history teacher to educate them about African American history, and that episode is going to be really important in a minute. But by season 3, she said she couldn't do her job because of Will. Alfonso Ribeiro would go out publicly and hit back and say it was her outbursts in drama that made the show impossible to work on. It became clear that at that time, with the way the actors viewed the show and each other, there was a lot of tension on the set. But there was a bigger issue. There was one final straw that kind of requires you to look at the show to give it context. Now that we're past all the stuff I've told you previously, I want to look at the show itself because this decision was a really big deal, and I can't think of another show that changed this much due to something like this. Before this scene, Janet Hubert took a very level approach to Aunt Viv. She was a confident, strong, intelligent woman who cared for and loved her family very much. But she was also no nonsense. When Will uses a lack of African American history being taught as an excuse for his poor history grade, she leaves the university for a while to become their African American history teacher. Her identity, her family's identity, was deeply rooted in her character. It was a frequent topic of episodes. And the show spent a lot of time in those first 3 seasons, whether it was Marcus, or helping out after the fire, or this history episode, explaining how important identity is to the Banks family, to Vivian, and just how much Vivian and Phil helped Will contextualize and understand his own previous life experiences. And it was because of this that when the show took turns to explore darker, heavier, more realistic realities of the Banks' lives, that those didn't feel like sharp, unearned turns. They felt natural. Aunt Viv and the way she was played was a huge part of this. Janet Hubert felt this way as well. Unfortunately for her, the network and the producers apparently did not. According to Janet Hubert, as the show became more successful, her pay wasn't scaling with that success. She wasn't getting what she felt she deserved. So when she came in for season 4 and asked for more money, well, that was the last time we'd see Janet Hubert as a member of the Banks family. She'd be replaced. or as she puts it, walk away from the show. And so we get this scene.
Since you had that baby, there's something different about you.
Daphne Maxwell Reid taking over the character. It was hard to miss. They look nothing alike, but obviously the story doesn't end there. And the truth is, the character and the show would change just as much. I think it's fair to assume, based on context, that a lot of Janet Hubert was in Aunt Viv, just like a lot of Will was in Will. And I think, ironically, this might have been a source of some of the issues. But I wasn't there. What I do know is that Maxwell Reid's approach to the character changed the texture and the fabric of the show. She was much softer as a voice as Vivian. She didn't play Viv like the larger-than-life presence that Hubert did. And that might have been the writers reacting to the change more than anything else. Maxwell Reid's Aunt Viv became a far less structural presence in the show's final 3 seasons. When you point to iconic Aunt Viv moments in episodes, you're probably pointing to Hubert. And that's because the show decentered Viv for the most part. The writers imbued more of what Viv was into Ashley and Hillary in those final 3 seasons, in some ways just straight up mirroring the episodes to an extent, and gave more of the show's responsibility to Uncle Phil. And you saw a rapid shift in the maturity expected out of the characters as the show moved away from using Aunt Viv as the voice of reason. It was all still there, it was just less frequent. We didn't see episodes like this one here quite as much anymore. It feels as though the writers maybe overcorrected, from strong, powerful Viv to softer, doting mother Viv. Too frequently, it felt that they wrote Hubert's Viv as Phil's partner, as a center of gravity, and Maxwell Reid's Viv as just another part of the Banks family.
Would you please sit down? We're busy now.
Oh, honey, we're about to get very busy.
The reality is that the show began a slow ratings collapse after season 3. Now, this is certainly not a direct result of firing Aunt Viv, but it is true. The show was literally canceled after season 4, Maxwell Reid's first season, before a pre-internet fan petition brought it back. Then again, after season 5, to the point where the show's season 5 finale was written to be the end, just in case. And then finally, for good, after season 6. What I always find most interesting, though, about all this is just how different this would all go today. This scene and its impact could never happen. The second Hubert was fired, you'd see it all over every website in the world. There'd be a Deadline article shared across the web about Maxwell Reid's casting months before the show aired. There'd be no surprise, everyone tuning in would be waiting for this moment, and it would play probably as cheap. Instead, no one saw this coming. So few knew what was going on that there were probably people saying a decade later, "I remember the day Aunt Viv changed." These are the kinds of moments that TV used to be able to create. The shared experience of millions seeing the same thing at the same time and all having the same shared emotion. That used to not just be unique to sports or the release of a new season of whatever's on streaming. Every show you loved used to feel like an event, no matter the genre or type of show. It's funny then looking back now that one of the best examples of this is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Is something as odd, as weird as this scene.
I lost everything. Reputation, everything.
Fresh Prince is one of my favorite shows of all time. I love every season of the show. I love Maxwell Reid's Vivian and Hubert's. They were just very different. And the truth is that seasons 1 through 3 and seasons 4 through 6 do feel like a tale of two shows. Why the show shifted so much, only the writers and producers can answer that question. But I will say that I do love that with the reunion in the time sense, that these differences were not just reconciled, but seemingly overcome, talked through, clarified. Because at the time, it must have seemed so big, so insurmountable. Janet Hubert at one point said that Will took everything from her, her career, her livelihood. There were things said about Alfonso Ribeiro, about Will, by Alfonso Ribeiro over the years that seemed like this rift would never be overcome. In fact, there were times that Janet Hubert would say over the years that a reunion would literally never happen. And other times, she'd say it would only happen if Will offered an apology unilaterally to her. So this is kind of beautiful. That's a nice ending. That's maybe the best ending for Fresh Prince the show could have offered. I still wish I could have seen this moment live though. Or really, that things like this could even still happen. You used to not be able to peek behind the curtain so much, so TV magic was much more common. And this must have felt just like that. A moment of TV magic, a moment of TV history.
There's something different about you.
That is it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this one, press that like button down below. And I'm curious, what's a show you think is a classic but doesn't get talked about enough in your eyes? And of course, I do sound a little raspy today. I'm sorry for that. But anyways, if you haven't yet done so, hit subscribe. That way you don't miss anything coming to the channel. And that little notification bell, just make sure you're actually notified when something comes to the channel. It helps a lot. And as always, this has been